Top of the Tuesday to you, and welcome back to Advent. It is day 14. We're 2 weeks into this wonderful time of the year. We've got about 10 days left, so it's coming close. We've got some quality so far. Everything's been, I think, very, very good. Uh, Maybe not perfect every day. Some days the musical quality has been a bit questionable, but hey, the only way to go from here is down, because we are on the decline. So let's see where the slope is going to bring us next. Number 14 is right here. Let's crack this bad boy open. That girl there is delivering a letter. Of course, I've most of my Christmas cards delivered. Some of them I haven't even written yet, but I'll get to that in good time. Gotta keep busy, huh? Okay, I'm seeing a D4, am I? I am, in fact. A sparkly D4. Okay, hello. Look at this with the naked eye. Get it up to the light a little bit. Yeah, so probably just because of the density of a D4, it isn't really as translucent as the D10, which really is like lovely and sparkly when you hold it up to the light. This one's a little bit more, I guess, tightly packed. Maybe it's just the nature of it. You can't see through any side of it quite so clearly. Of course, the D4 is actually mathematically an actual dice, unlike the D10, which is, while very useful, not a fair dice, because you can't, if you rotate it on its vertices, it's identical, but with a D10, depending on which vertices you hold, the rotation will be different, or something like that. I wasn't very good at maths. I just know that a D4 is a fair dice and a D10 isn't. And in theory, a D12 is also a fair dice, but it never seems it when you're rolling one. Did I say D10 or D12? I meant D12. I may have said D10. It's still quite early. Haven't woken up yet. We know what D4 is. D4 is our boys. It's Lord Huron. The problem is going to be rolling this until we get one that hasn't come up yet, because so far we have done Vide Noir, I believe. I don't. Hang on a moment. Yeah, apologies for that. I just had to double check. Yeah, we've done Long Lost. We've done Vide Noir, which I was thinking, but I just wasn't sure. I had to check the pile. That means there's only two results that can come up on this that will actually be what we want. So instead of re-rolling this to death, I'm thinking if it's evens, we're doing the first one on the list, and if it's odds, we're doing the second one on the list. Sound fair? It'll save us some time, hopefully. Let's get into it. At least today we're guaranteed quality. Thank you, D4. Okay, and that is an odd, meaning it's the second one on the list, and that would be 4, which goes back to marvelous. All right, back in a moment. So, the astute viewer among you may remember that when I was last talking about Lord Huron and how I got into them, I mentioned that I broadly had to thank YouTube recommendations for combining my interest at the time, which persists to this day, of D&D inspiring music and country. And this was pre-Vide Noir's release. I got into them just before it came out, and then it came out, and I bought it just because it was there, right? And it ended up being one of my favorite albums, I would say, of all time. This, however, is the first one of theirs that I heard music off of. This is the album that was their newest when I started listening to them. This is Strange Trails, and as you can see from the cover there, it's it's a little bit of a retro throwback, shall we say. Stylistically, in terms of like aesthetics, very similar to Long Lost, and then the way that they kind of styled it. Whereas Vide Noir is more, I guess, cosmic-y. It's more leaning into the open source, Lovecraftian, Cthulhu-y sort of thing. Side note on that, I was recently watching somebody talking about, Eldritch horror Cthulhu mythos, all that kind of interesting stuff, which is open source. It's Creative Commons, one of those. I'm never sure which applies, but he was talking about it, and he mispronounced Eldritch, or at least I thought it was a mispronunciation anyway. And he said Eldritch, and sometimes that's all it takes for something to click in your head. It's like, oh yeah, the elder, like elder gods. That's where that comes from. Cool, that all makes sense now. Let's not talk about cat names. Let's get back to the task at hand. Strange Trails is a solid starting place for Lord Huron. It is their second album, and I would say that it very much bucks the trend of second albums being a letdown from the first. The first album is fine. I'm actually quite a fan. There's some solid stuff on it, but it's a little Lumineers, and I don't like saying that about anybody, but it is a little bit Lumineers. It's a bit sort of vague, folky, country. There are tracks on it that show that they were heading in a good direction, but broadly speaking, they hadn't found their feet yet. Whereas with Strange Trails, you get a good sample platter of everything that they're going to have going forward. You got a little bit of the dark, you got a good smattering of country, some solid storytelling, and probably I would say the one that's most known by most people, even if they don't really know Lord Huron, which is, as we'll see from the back, the last track on the album, The Night We Met. It featured in some Netflix show. I haven't seen it, but I know it was in one of them because of a lot of YouTube thumbnails. I can zoom, fantastic. But it is. I'll say it's one of the highlights of the album. But there are another good few good ones that we can get here. Personal favorite aspect to this album is it kind of mirrors itself in a cool way. I need to actually pluck out the song to. I think it's track number 1 and track number 8. The proverbial A side and B side, because we're talking a CD, it's all A side. But word of record, that'll be your A side and your B side split, right? And the first song on both sides are, and this isn't a bad thing, musically identical. I don't know enough about music to be able to describe it any better, but yeah, they sound like the same song, but the subject matter, the lyrics, and a lot of the composition couldn't be more different, but they follow the same beats, which is interesting because it gives a lot of like parallelism to the album, where somewhat subconsciously you're kind of tying together tones and themes from the B side and the A side and trying to see, okay, does this relate to that and that relate to the other? I don't know. It's an album that makes me think a little bit, which is quite nice. And I like it when artists put together compilations and collections that mean more for listening through and mean more to you, and can be interpreted in different ways when you listen to them straight through. Makes sense? I hope so. I'm not even sure if it does, but I've said it now, so enjoy. Recommendation. Shit. Well, The easy answer would be to say The Night We Met, but I don't think that's what I'm going to recommend. I think I'm going to recommend La Belle Fleur Sauvage. I'm sorry to any teacher who ever tried to teach me French, but that's the best pronunciation I could go for. That's going to be track number 5 on the album. It's pretty good. Or just listen to The Night We Met. That one's a tearjerker. If that doesn't sell you on Lord Huron, hopefully something else will, because they're a good bunch of guys. Excuse me. And that's going to be us for the day 14. Pretty solid day. I was expecting further decline. Not today, though. Not today. Maybe tomorrow. Who can say? D4. Have a good one.